Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today with my college football top 25 for week 3 of this college football season. Before I continue, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to your channel. Greatly appreciate if you do that. We're really trying to grow the channel, so go ahead and do that. Um, we're a wild week of college football. A lot of upsets this past week. I have a feeling that my looking at my picks is not going to be that good. Looking at the week 2 picks, and you'll see that on Wednesday morning when I make the college football picks for week 3. But we're a wild week of college football here in week 2. A lot of upsets, as I said. You had I think the Pac-12 personally, I think had a really good showing. I know Colorado lost, but 10-7, that's pretty good against a top 5 team. You had the Oregon obviously go up there and upset Ohio State, so that's pretty good. And it was just a lot of wild games. I mean, a lot of unexpected results. I think a lot of top 25 teams look lackadaisical for the most part. But I'll go through it. I'll talk about each game here to a fault, and why I have every team where I have them at. So let's get into it. We'll kick it off. We'll go 25 through 1. Up to 25 is Auburn. This is kind of by default. I thought about paying a lot of teams here at 25. I really did. I even thought about paying teams like Texas, who, by the way, is I dropped out here at 25 because I just couldn't really find a team. But I put Auburn here by default. I couldn't out of all the teams. I thought they had the best argument. They hung 60 plus on both of their opponents. They have a big matchup against Penn State. College game day is going to be there, I'm pretty sure. I haven't checked it, but I'm pretty sure that's the game they're going to because that's the ABC night game. And I think they can score. I mean, they definitely can prove that they can score. I mean, they hung 60 plus on the two opponents they played in Akron and Alabama State. So I put them at 25. Defense looks pretty good for Auburn as well. So I put them at 25, but I thought about paying a lot of teams here at 25. I went with Auburn at 25. 24, Arkansas. Very impressive win against Texas. I did not see fully 21 Arkansas coming. I honestly thought the game was going to be a Texas 10 to 14 point victory. I know there was a lot of hype on Arkansas coming into the season. My opinion about Arkansas was it was nice to see them finally win some SEC games, but they went 3-7, and the team that went 3-7, I didn't think at best maybe they could get to 7 wins. But some people were hyping Arkansas to maybe get 8, 9 wins. I didn't see that. But I'll say this about Arkansas: they looked really, really impressive in a future SEC matchup. Um, Defensively, Arkansas, Barry Odom, the defensive coordinator there, doing an excellent job with this defense. Offensively, they're lucky that Texas is lucky that they were able to hold Arkansas to some field goals early there in the first half because this could have gone ugly really quick. I mean, Texas still had a shot in the third quarter in this one, but Arkansas got to 40 to 14 at one point. So overall, just very impressive. I put them in the top 25. That race win, they did cover there as well. So go ahead. I went ahead and put Arkansas in up at 24. Number 23 is Arizona State. They blew out the two opponents they have faced. Overall, I know a lot of people think this is a top 25 team. I'm not overly high on them, but they blew out the two opponents they faced in UNLV and the FCS. I know that's not that good, but overall, if you look at this team, they were in a lot of top 25s. They were probably, if this was a top 30 in the preseason, they would have definitely been in it. And I do think that they're better than the two teams that are behind them and Arkansas and Auburn on a neutral field. So I went ahead and put Arizona State up at 23. Number 22, UCLA. They didn't play this week. I moved them up though by default. They have a game against Fresno State. Fresno State team 31-24 lost to Oregon. Also, looking like a pretty good loss if there's ever such a thing as a good loss. So um, pretty interesting game for them next week. Number 21, Central Florida. They blew out their FCS opponent. They also have a win against Boise State. They're looking pretty good, UCF. I don't know if they're going to be able to beat Cincinnati. More of them are a second, but pretty good win for UCF. I moved them up a few spots. Now 20, number 20 through 16. Number 20 is Virginia Tech. They did win and cover against Middle Tennessee, so give them credit for that. It looks like they weren't going to cover, but they did go ahead and then get a last second cover against them. It was 20.5 point spread. They won by 21. I did take Virginia Tech minus 20.5, so good job, Virginia Tech. But they did cover. They do have games against Miami. They have a big game next week in the I think it's called the Diamond Series, the Black Diamond Trophy, if I'm not mistaken, against against Virginia Tech, against not against Virginia Tech, against West Virginia. So a West Virginia team that's 1-1. So that's, and I think it's up there in Morgantown. So that's going to be a huge game there. But we'll see what Virginia Tech does. I think they're definitely proving to be a lot better than what I thought they were going to be. So I like what I'm seeing from Virginia Tech. At 19, Coastal Carolina, I only moved them up one spot. I could have moved them up more, but that game on Friday night, it was 28-22 Coastal Carolina in the third quarter against a Kansas team that I know they're a lot better than. Grant, give them credit, they did pull away and they actually did cover at the end, but at the end of the day, and I say this a lot about, I've been saying this a lot about Coastal Carolina. I don't think that the type of offense they run, I don't think they're going to be able to hang with the big boys. I really don't. I think defensively they're pretty good. But offensively, I think they're good for like the Sun Belt or a Conference USA play or some of these lower lower Power Five schools or lower end Power Five schools. But if you're going, like for instance, if you're going up against Alabama, I think Alabama's blowing out Coastal Carolina. I think Georgia would blow out Coastal Carolina. I think Ohio State, Oregon. I think all these top teams will blow out Coastal Carolina because they just don't have the offense that they run is kind of a it's just the type of offense where, in my opinion, I just don't think they can hang with teams going back and forth in shootouts. So I moved them up one spot. We'll see what they do. The Sun Belt is pretty exciting, so we'll see what they do. At 18, Indiana. Give Indiana credit. They bounced back and got a big blowout win against the FCS. And looking at their loss, that loss doesn't look that bad all of a sudden. At least I know the score still looks bad, but they lost to a very good Iowa team. And I'll talk more about Iowa here in a second. But I think Indiana, I still think they're a top 25 team. I do. Um, we'll see what they do against Cincinnati coming up here, but I think they are a top 25 team. Number 17, Michigan. They blew out Washington. I consider a blowout, 3 touchdowns, 31-10 Michigan in that one. I'm pretty impressed with this Michigan team. They have a big game against Wisconsin 2 weeks from now. On the road there in Camp Randall. We'll see what happens in that game. I expect that game to be a lot closer than what it was the previous two times when they faced them. But in my opinion, I think Michigan's definitely a top 25 team. I said they were a preseason top 25. I had them up at 25 in the preseason poll, and they moved up to number 17 since then. I like this Michigan team. I don't know at the end if they're going to be able to beat Ohio State, even though Ohio State looks very vulnerable, as you saw this past week. But I like this Michigan team. I really do. And number 16, North Carolina. Got a blowout win against Georgia State. I did move them down one spot because they do have a loss on their resume. But and the teams of some of the teams in front of them, I couldn't really justify picking North Carolina ahead of them being undefeated. But overall, North Carolina, I think they'll get. I think they'll going to get back to their winning ways. Miami didn't look that good against Appalachian State. The really only real threat I think is really Pitt at this point, and in the ACC when you guys face the ACC coastal teams. If you're able to beat Notre Dame in the non-conference, they can still win 10, 11 games easily. I think North Carolina can. Okay, number 15 is Ole Miss. They're undefeated. They went ahead and blew out their FCS opponent. They get Alabama in week 5. That's going to be a huge game. But overall, Ole Miss looks like a team that they look like a top 25 team. I was a little bit bullish on, well, not so much bullish. I put them 23 in my preseason top 25 poll. I was a little hesitant to do that, but it looks like it's paying off so far. So I have them at number 15. 14's Iowa State. I did say I was gonna come on here and recap that game. To be honest, I got really tired after that game, and I kind of just fell asleep around 8, 9 o'clock. So I didn't really watch the night games, but I did watch all the highlights of them before making the top 25 and coming on here and telling you all the week 3 top 25. Iowa State, okay, a few things here. One, they played poor. They had 4 turnovers. You're not going to beat Iowa if you have 4 turnovers. Two, I guess Kirk Ferentz in Iowa is Matt Campbell's kryptonite. I mean, it seems like, I mean, if there was going to be a year Iowa State was going to beat Iowa, it was going to be this year. And I mean, this game was 27-10 at one point. I mean, give Iowa State credit for making it at least a little bit closer than what it was, but I mean, when you have 4 turnovers, it's not good. It's just not good if you have 4 turnovers. I mean, Iowa overall just they dominated this game from start to finish. They were the better team from the start to the finish. So and I thought about moving Iowa. Excuse me. I know there's probably gonna be some overreaction. I think Iowa State was 9 in the AP. I could see them easily moving out of the top 15. I'm not gonna overreact so much on that. I actually have them rated number 10 in last week's poll. I had the two teams flip flop, Iowa and Iowa State, but I didn't move them down that much. I mean, in my opinion, I still think they're a top 15 team. I just think they played their worst possible game they could have played against Iowa, and they still only lost by 10. So that tells you that they're still a pretty good team. In Big 12 play, I think outside of Oklahoma, they should be favored against anybody else. So that's the good news if you're Iowa State. At number 13, Wisconsin. Wisconsin, in my opinion, they blew out their opponent. I think it was Eastern Michigan. Yeah, Eastern Michigan. Because the number 12 played another MAC opponent. They blew out Eastern Michigan. I still think this is a good team. I think what happened was in week 1 against Penn State, they were even moving the ball okay against them. They just couldn't really get into the cash into the end zone once when they got down and well into Penn State's territory like 4 times. So I'm still high on this team. I still think they're a top 15 team. That Iowa Wisconsin game is going to be huge at this point. I'm going to talk more about the Big Ten in general when I talk about Iowa. But overall, matchup is going to be a huge matchup, potential top 10 matchup as well, depending on what happens with Wisconsin. As I said, they have a big game against Michigan here in 2 weeks. Number 12 is Penn State. The only reason Penn State's ahead of Wisconsin is because they beat them. I personally think Penn State they're more around 14 or 15, but I couldn't really justify paying Penn State. Uh, I, I couldn't justify paying any of the teams that's behind Penn State ahead of them. You look at Penn State, they took care of Ball State 34-7 if I'm not mistaken. A lot of people thought that Penn State wasn't going to cover that 22, 23 point spread. I thought they would have from what I saw, and they did. So good job, Penn State. Um, we'll see what they do. They have a big game against Auburn this upcoming week. That's a top 25 matchup, 12 versus 25. Game day is going to be there. It's going to be a bright out game. So we'll see what happens in that one. I think Auburn is, I'll be honest with you, I think this game is going to be a lot tighter than what some people thought maybe in the preseason. I think a lot of people had Auburn as an 8 to 10 point dog. I'm just gonna be honest. Anything that's under anything like over 7, if it's a spread like 7 or over, I am gonna take Auburn then because I think Auburn can score. I really do. I know Penn State has an excellent defense, but I think Auburn can score. I think Penn State might have to try to hang 30. Whoever gets to 30 first, I think it might be one of those games like 31-27. So we'll see, but overall. I do think that Penn State's a pretty good team, and I do think Ohio State better be careful when they face them. And then number 11, Notre Dame. My God, Notre Dame's resume looks weak. Yeah, they're 2-0, but Florida State, they lost to Jacksonville State last night. That's embarrassing. I agree with Mike Norvell. That's embarrassing. I can even say that's a little bit more than embarrassing. But I'll be nice. But all of a sudden that Florida State win does not look that good. And then you barely survived Toledo. I know Toledo was supposed to be one of the better teams in the MAC, but that's a game that, in my opinion, you gotta win that game by at least 2 touchdowns if you're Notre Dame. So their resume does not look that good. I do not think they're a top 10 team. I'll be honest with you. They have Cincinnati, and they have Cincinnati coming up. I think they're losing that game to Cincinnati. They have North Carolina on the schedule, Southern Cal on the schedule. It's going to be interesting to see. But I am not that high on Notre Dame right now. Now for the top 10. Number 10 is Florida. Kind of by default. I mean, I couldn't really make an argument for any team behind Florida. Any team behind Florida to put them ahead. You look at Florida. Once again, they face Alabama next week. It's on CBS 3:30. My opinion is if Florida cannot consistently score the ball or drive the ball down against Alabama, they're going to be in a world of trouble against Alabama. I do not think that Florida Alabama game, and it's in Gainesville, I don't think that game's going to be that close at this time. Maybe I'll change my mind by Wednesday, but I don't think that game's going to be close. I look at Florida, they can't figure out the quarterback position. They can't defensively. They're okay. I mean, South Florida looked really bad against NC State, and they were able to at least look halfway decent against Florida. Florida did not cover again, so I'm pretty concerned about Florida's defense against Alabama. I'm pretty concerned overall. If I was a Florida fan, I would be concerned going into the Alabama game. I don't think that game's going to be that close. I could see it being a 4 touchdown loss, honestly. I don't think I'll go that far around picking on Wednesday, but I think you're probably losing by at least 2 touchdowns at this point. I'm not that high on Florida at all, but I do think they're a top 10, top 15 ish team. I put them at 10 by default, so Florida number 10. Number 9, Texas A&M. Man, what an embarrassing game for the A&M. Yeah, you got the win 10-7, but I don't. I know Haynes King. I know he got injured. Zaza Kalada, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. There's no excuse for only picking up 10 points against Colorado. That game should have been at least a 2 touchdown game. I don't care that your quarterback got injured. That needs to be at least a 2 touchdown game at the end. You have two very capable quarterbacks. There's a reason why there was a competition this summer for the starting job, and it was just a very disappointing game for A&M. The good news is that I think you play on nobody next week, so we'll see what happens there. But as I said, if you play like that against Alabama in week 6, it's gonna be a long night for A&M. So I'm not overly impressed with A&M. I actually moved them back a few spots despite them winning. Number 8, Cincinnati. I moved them back a few spots as well. Very, very slow start against Murray State there in the first half. They did blow them out in the second half and win 42-7. But if you're Cincinnati as a group of 5, and I know you're going to the Big 12, so congratulations on that. You got to make every drive, every possession count. I mean, you got to. You cannot go into Murray State if you're Cincinnati as a group of 5 trying to make the playoffs. Probably the best group of 5 team we're going to see in a while. You can't go in that game against Murray State and look like a lackadaisical in the first half. You just can't. So I moved you back a few spots. I had you at 5 last week. I moved you back to 8. I look at Cincinnati. They do have Indiana and Notre Dame coming up. I do think you beat both of those teams personally as of right now. But if you're Cincinnati, you cannot look like that at all this season. And to be honest, if there's 5 undefeated teams, that might cost you for a college football playoff spot that first half performance against Murray State. So Cincinnati number 8, number 7 is Ohio State. I moved them back from 3 to 7. I didn't want to overreact too much. They lost. They lost the game by a touchdown. Ohio State looks vulnerable, guys. This defense for Ohio State is not that good. Offensively, I actually think they're good offensively. I'm not concerned about the offense. But defensively, I mean, they got killed 4 times on 3 of them touchdowns, and the other one a big 3rd and 6 for the defense. They counter left. I mean, they couldn't stop counter left. So And I said it, I talked about this game a lot more when I did the post game for this game on my channel. The video is called "The Pac-12's Back." It's a live stream, about a 30-minute live stream. Go check that out. But if you're Ohio State, I mean, I look at the Big Ten in general. I'll look at the Big Ten East. I think the Big Ten West. I think you get Nebraska and I forget who else. I know you get Nebraska, but and by the way, speaking about Nebraska, just a little side note. Pretty impressive win from Nebraska. I did not think you would cover that 13.5 point spread, and you did. You won 28-3. Um, if you guys didn't lose to Illinois, I think we'll be saying good things about Nebraska right now. So good win from Nebraska. But I look at the Big Ten East. Penn State, they look pretty good. I definitely could see Penn State going into Ohio State and beating you guys. You look at Maryland. Maryland's 2-0. That Maryland's offense looks pretty good. Maryland's, and I know I'm a Maryland fan, and we beat Howard 62-0. I think I said 63-0. Was going to be the score, so I was very close with that. Um, Maryland's offense, they're good enough to at least hang around with Ohio State. I think at the end, Ohio State will still win because I'm not that sold on Maryland's defense, but that will be a shootout in my opinion to a degree. Rutgers, you guys should beat Rutgers easily. Rutgers, they, they went ahead and beat Syracuse 17-7, but they did hang 61 on Temple. You look at Indiana, I think you'll beat Indiana. I'm not overly sold on them. Michigan State, I think you'll beat Michigan State, despite them being 2-0. And then Michigan, who knows? The way Michigan's playing right now, I think they could at least hang with you guys. So I think Ohio State is very vulnerable. I definitely see at least Penn State and Michigan having a shot against them. I think Maryland, if a few things bounce right, the way their offense is, can bounce. I think they will have a legit shot against them. I think Indiana can have a legit shot against them if a few things bounce right. So Ohio State looks vulnerable. So they need to patch some things up defensively. That you cannot let 3 touchdowns score in the same play. So that can't happen. So I dropped. I didn't overreact. I don't think I overreacted, but I did drop them down to number 7, and then number 6. I do have Oregon. I was wrong about Oregon. I did not think they were a top 10 team. Yeah, they're a top 10 team. I said it in the Pac-12 is back video. I did say that Oregon looks like those 2014, 2015 good Pac-12 teams, and like Stanford and Washington dominating the line of scrimmage. They dominated the line of scrimmage. Give this defense a lot of credit. Now, granted, I still think Ohio State did have more depth than Oregon, and I think that did show in the fourth quarter, and that's the main reason why I did pick Ohio State. But this defense hung in there. They made a few plays. Offensively, they did really good. The running game for them was pretty super to say the least. But I'm pretty. If you're an Oregon fan, I look at the Pac-12 North. I think it's Oregon's Pac-12 North to lose. Cal doesn't look that good. Stanford, yeah, they got a huge win against Southern Cal. But at the same time, I think that's kind of inconsistent. I think they're gonna be inconsistent with that. Oregon State's terrible. Washington doesn't look that good, and then Washington State looks terrible. So I think it's Oregon's Pac-12 North to lose. So good win for Oregon. Now the top 5. Number 5 is Oklahoma. I moved them up 1 spot. Um, was it 76-0 against Western Carolina? So pretty good performance. That's what I expect Oklahoma to do to an FCS opponent. With Ohio State losing, you kind of got bailed out a little bit. I moved you up 1 spot. Number 4, Iowa. Yeah, this might be a little bit of an overreaction. I move Iowa up to number 4, and here's why. You look at their defense. Their defense is top 5. Outside of Georgia, Penn State, and Wisconsin, and maybe Bama, whose defense are you paying ahead? Whose? I'm paying Iowa number 5. You go ahead and look at Iowa in general. The way they're able to take care of the ball. The way that they blew out Indiana 34-6. They went to Iowa State and beat them by 10. They were up 27-10 before garbage time kind of started rolling in. You look at Iowa. If you asked me at the beginning of the season, because everybody looked at their schedule, they had 2 top 25 teams to start their schedule. If a little bit more likely for them, in my opinion, to start off the season 0-2 rather than 2-0. So very impressive with Iowa. That and I look at the Big Ten West. I think it's a two-team race between them and Wisconsin. I mean, you look around Nebraska. Nebraska has a shot to at least win a few Big Ten games, but at the same time, they're not going to be anywhere near Iowa or Wisconsin. Minnesota, people are kind of high on them. They barely survived Miami of Ohio, and I think they're going to lose a game or two that they're not supposed to lose. So I think that's going to happen there. You look at the Illinois teams, neither one of them are good. And then you go ahead and look at Purdue. I mean, Purdue did get that nice win against Oregon State, and they blew out UConn. But I mean, are they going to beat Wisconsin and Iowa? I would say no. So I think Iowa. I mean, I have them rated as the best team in the Big Ten according to my rankings. I still think Ohio State's better than them, but I mean, you can't say enough about what's going on there in Iowa City. I mean, two top 25 wins. You cannot ignore that. You just cannot ignore that. Number three, Clemson. Yeah, I do have a team with a loss in my top three, primarily because I do think Clemson is still at worst a top five team, and I couldn't really justify paying Iowa ahead of Clemson. So Clemson's number three. They went ahead and blew out South Carolina State. They're gonna win through the ACC, be 11-1, and then probably win the ACC championship game. And we'll see how it lines up then. Number two's Georgia. Um, Listen, Stetson Bennett. He looked horrible last year. He looked pretty good against UAB. They had to go ahead and start him because of JT Daniels. He has a little bit of a nagging injury, so they decided to sit him out. They're probably going to sit him out next week as well, get him healthy, ready for Auburn. Because I think that's Georgia's next big game. But Georgia's defense, I can't say enough about this defense. Offensively, they look good. So I do think if you ask me today, I'll show my number one. If you ask me today what the championship was going to be, the national championship was going to be, I would say Alabama, Georgia. I think that's going to be your SEC championship and national championship at this time. You look at Alabama on number one. They beat Mercer 48-14. So to be honest, that's kind of underwhelming if you're Alabama. But I picked them on number one. They and if you look at the SEC, A&M, I still think A&M's a good team. I just think I don't know what happened up there in Colorado. It's probably one of those games that like you just don't show up for. You always have one of those games you kind of just face palm the whole game, but you find a way to win it. You have A&M, you have Ole Miss, Auburn's top 25, Arkansas's top 25. So the SEC West looks competitive this year. LSU, I still think has a pulse. So overall, pretty good week of college football. I'll show you the three teams that I left out. Texas at 14. I thought about keeping Texas in there. I really did at 25, but I just couldn't justify it with them having a loss on their schedule when Auburn scored 60 plus so in the first 2 weeks. If you look at Texas, as I said, kind of when spoke about Arkansas, Texas is lucky they held them to some field goals early. That game could have gotten really ugly quickly. I did not expect Texas to go out there and look that bad. Defensively, Texas did not look good at all. Offensively, they were okay, I think. Give Barry Odom and that defense credit, but if you look at Texas, yeah, I mean, you have a game. You have TCU on the schedule. You have Oklahoma on the schedule after that. I mean, you could look at Texas. TCU's 2-0. You might be looking at Texas as two losses going into Red River Shootout, and then probably losing their third game of the season in the Red River Shootout. So, yeah, if you're Texas, it might be tough sledding here for a little bit. Southern Cal at 17, I dropped them out. What a disappointing loss. I mean, Slovers didn't play that good. I mean, overall, Southern Cal as a whole just didn't play that good. That game was not a good showing for Southern Cal. And good win for Stanford, by the way. That was a big win for Stanford going in there and beating them. Personally, from what I saw from Stanford in week one, I did not think Stanford could really score points that much. But man, they proved me wrong, hanging 42 on Southern Cal. I mean, and David Shaw, we know what he's capable of as a head coach. So overall, Stanford, very impressive win. Southern Cal, not so much of an impressive performance in general. But the Pac-12 South is wide open. You have UCLA, who looks pretty good. Arizona State is a top 25 team. We're going to speak about Utah here in a second. Southern Cal, I still think has a shot in there. Colorado, they haven't played a Pac-12 game yet, but they look pretty impressive against A&M. So I mean, Pac-12 South looks wide open. And then Utah, I dropped them out at 19. A bit of a disappointing loss against BYU. I thought you guys would win, but not cover that spread. Turns out you guys just got outright upsetted. Um, I mean, BYU, I know it's a rivalry game. BYU, they're, I mean, I was kind of a bit underwhelming with them in week one because I thought they should beat Arizona by more. But you look at them now; they went. I mean, they did beat a ranked team, so that's pretty good. And Utah, I just dropped them out at 19 because I needed to pick Arkansas in it. I mean, after Arkansas went ahead and beat Texas, I knew I had to go ahead and pick Arkansas in the top 25, and Utah was that first team looking there that was most likely going to be dropped out. But I don't think Utah is a bad team. I still think they have a really good shot to win the Pac-12 South, especially with Southern Cal at 0-1. But uh, I believe they play. I do believe they play Southern Cal here in I think week 4, week 5. So that's gonna be a huge game there. So we'll see what happens. They have everybody in the Pac-12 South, Arizona State, Colorado at the end of the season. They have Colorado at the end of the season and UCLA as well. But dropped 2 Pac-12 teams, added one in Arizona State, and added 2 SEC teams to the poll. So. That's basically my top 25. Comment down below. Tell me what you think. I always like hearing from you all. Thanks for watching the video. Hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate if you do that. This is McD the Beast signing off.